Welcome to Write Your Book in a Flash with Dan Janelle, the only podcast where you'll learn how successful people just like you have grown their businesses, expanded their influence, and made more money by writing a book. On each episode, you'll learn the inside secrets to help you create a book that can serve as a powerful marketing tool to skyrocket your business. I'm your host, Dan Janelle. I help thought leaders, business executives, and entrepreneurs write their books. To find out more, go to writeyourbookinaflash.com. Welcome, everyone. Our topic today is how to turn your manuscript into a book. And our guest is Judy Weintraub. How are you, Judy?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks so much for asking and for having me as a guest on your podcast.
My pleasure. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we dive into this topic?
I'd be glad to. I started my professional career over 35 years ago as an attorney. I currently represent small business owners with their legal matters. About 12 years ago, not quite 12 years ago, I decided I wanted to repurpose some of the materials that I had developed, articles, presentations, things like that were great content, but I wasn't really getting much use out of them. And I thought, well, I could write a book. I could put all this into a book and then it would get out to more people. But the thought of writing a book was kind of daunting. So I thought, well, maybe it would be easier if I wrote a series of short books. I decided to look online for a convenient platform to do that, and I couldn't find it. And nobody in my network could recommend that resource for me, but I had over 60 people tell me that if I found that resource, could I please share it with them because they wanted to do that too. So I wound up self-publishing my first book, sent it out, got a lot of really good feedback. And then I had 22 people ask me if I would help them since I now had learned the ropes of how to do it myself. That was the genesis of my publishing platform called SkillBites, which is designed to help business owners and professionals get their books done easily and quickly. Now, as you mentioned, getting a book written is phase one, but it is only phase one because there's a lot that has to happen after the book is written. And it's really important, I think, to have that sense of what you do with a manuscript after you're done writing it so that you get that full picture. Otherwise, you might wind up spending your time writing a book that you don't do anything with. And that's really a shame. I've had a number of people come to me and say, I wish I had found you 6 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever, when I finished my book, because it's just been sitting there waiting to have something happen to it. And I had no idea what to do.
That's a great story. And I'm sure you help a lot of people with the production of their book and the publishing of their book. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize when they come to me as a developmental editor. They think they're going to write a book. And in reality, they're writing a manuscript. That's the first stage. Get the ideas down, first draft, second draft, final copy, whatever. Then you have this wonderful manuscript, but it's 300 or 200 or 100 pages on a loose leaf binder. It has to be turned into a book. And that's what a lot of people don't realize right off the top of the bat. Let's talk about some of the production issues that writers need to be concerned with as they're writing the book. Do they have to think about formatting the book, or does that come later?
Well, that's certainly one of the elements. And of course, as a developmental editor, you know that editing is a critical component. If you want your book to reflect well on you, you need to have it professionally edited. And I make sure I emphasize the word professionally. I've had clients come to me with their quote unquote edited manuscript that they had their secretary edit, or they had a friend of theirs who is a good writer edit. And I take a look at it and I can tell it's not been professionally edited. The flow isn't there. There's still some typos in it. And frankly, if you have your book out there with errors in it, then it's going to detract from your reputation, not enhance it. And that's really a shame to have something out there that that's not going to help you. Beyond the editing, of course, then you have to have a cover designed. You have to have your book designed to look like a book, your layout design with the headers on the page and page numbers and the fonts for your text and your chapter headings and all the front matter, your table of contents, your copyright page, all that stuff goes into layout design. Cover design, your cover has to look good, not just on the cover of your book, but in the thumbnail size that people are going to see on Amazon. So if you've got a lot of crazy things going on in your cover, people aren't going to be able to see what your cover's like in that small size. I've had a lot of people come to me with their covers that were designed by their daughter or a friend of theirs who might well be good artists or graphic artists, but if they don't know cover design, then the cover's not going to work as well for you. It may not even meet the printer's specifications. I've had so many of my clients come to me with their covers done, and I run into all kinds of problems trying to upload their covers to Amazon when I'm trying to get their book published. Amazon keeps sending me error messages, and then I have to go back to them, and that delays the process considerably, and it costs more money in the long run for them to have to keep redoing a cover.
What are some of the elements that go into a good cover?
Well, for one, it needs to be clear. It needs to be colorful. It needs to attract people's attention. If you have your title in a font that's not very big, that's a problem. One of my clients, had a graphic artist design her cover. Her title was pretty good. Her subtitle was pretty good, but her name appeared in really small print at the very bottom. It's like, you mean you're trying to hide your name? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Then there's all kinds of cover issues of people's eyes tend to track from the top left to the bottom right. So if your cover design goes the other direction, it's not going to work as well for you. You have to, as I said before, you have to meet cover specifications, the margins, the size of the spine. It's a very, very precise formula to get that width of the spine to meet the printer specifications. It's like a 0.0013627 times the number of pages or whatever the number is. And if you're not a cover designer, then you might not have the right width there. The back cover is also important because after people look at the front cover, typically they turn the book over and they want to see what you've got on the back. You can have testimonials, which are pretty powerful. On the back cover, you could have a description of your book. You might have a photo, headshot of yourself and a little author bio, the ISBN barcode on the back cover. You want it to look good and you want the content to be enticing to your target reader.
Great points. Where do you come down on the topic of putting your picture on the front cover for a business book? Some of my authors love the idea. Others are a little bit shy and they shy away from it. What do you think in terms of marketing and promotion? What would you advise someone to do?
Well, there's a couple different elements that go into that answer. If you're an incredibly attractive person, it makes it more appealing to have your picture on the front cover. And if you're not a terribly attractive person, then that weighs in against putting yourself on the front cover. By and large, I think it's better for people to have their headshot on the back cover and to have the front cover focus on the title of the book and the subtitle and not as much on them. Their author name is there and they're probably going to want a headshot on the back cover anyway, as well as inside the book. However, if you're well recognized in your industry or in your community, then you could have your picture on the front cover. Hopefully it's a really, really good picture. I had one of my authors who used his daughter on the front cover because she was really striking. And that was attractive to some of his target readers to have this beautiful young woman on the cover. There's a lot of things that go into determining whether your picture should be on the front cover. I would say if you're a celebrity or if you're really good looking, then it can be a good idea. Otherwise, I would suggest not doing the front cover with your own image.
Okay, thank you. It's good information. I think I call myself a publishing snob. I can pick up a book and look at the insides and say, this just does not look professional. And it comes down to the space in the margins and the space between the lines and such like that. I think that's something a lot of authors don't think about when they think about self-publishing and saying, well, I'll just run this off on Word and go to a print house. Tell me about some of the other factors that people just don't think about that because you've published hundreds of books.
Right. Well, there are a lot of places you can go online and you can get layout templates and put your book in these templates. Just like there's lots of places online where you can get cover templates and just put your title on those templates. Problem, of course, is that there might be thousands of other people using the same template, and then that makes your book not particularly unique. There could even be a book on the exact same topic as yours that shows the same template that you did. And so that sort of detracts from the power of your book. But there's lots of issues that go into layout design. And the type of book will help determine which style is going to work best for you. What works well for a business book is not going to be the same as what would work well for a memoir or a novel or whatever. So a good layout designer can take your concept and come up with a layout design that's going to better fit your book and be more unique for you than some of the places you can go online and get inexpensive templates. And they can make sure that your line spacing, your fonts, and everything are done in a professional manner. So when I have my clients at the layout stage, I give them a list of about a dozen issues, and they have the option of telling me, oh, I want to do it this way, or I have no clue how I want to do it. I would like the layout designer to provide me with some samples. And so then we provide 3 or 4 samples, and they can say, I like this part of sample 1, this part of sample 2, and this part of sample 4, and then we'll put them together and create a new layout for them with their preferences, because it's easier to determine that once you take a look at them.
What is the one thing you wish authors knew before they went to production?
Well, there's more than one, but one thing that comes to mind is the time frame. I think people think that once they have their book written, the manuscript written, then it should be able to be published in a few weeks. And that just doesn't happen. For a book that's in the 100, 120 page range, you should plan on a good 4 months to get all of the work done, the editing, the layout, the cover, formatting for ebook and print book, all those things done. It can be done quicker, but then that depends on how quick you can turn around drafts. If you get a sample, a couple sample cover files, and it takes you a couple weeks to respond with your feedback because you want to run it by family and friends and get their opinions or whatever, it's going to take longer. But if you can turn things around in a couple days, then you could get your book in hand in less than 4 months. So it depends on your time frame. Most of my authors are entrepreneurs who are pretty busy with their businesses, so 4 months is fairly typical for them gives them time to really take a good look at what I'm presenting to them and think about it and then provide their feedback.
Perfect. Judy, thank you so much for being with us today. Why don't you tell us who your perfect client is and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. My perfect client is a business owner or professional who is wanting to write a book to enhance their credibility, to gain greater visibility, to generate more leads and grow their business, possibly to get speaking engagements and media interviews and all of the advantages of being a published author, and would like that assistance to get them through the process, because they may not have ever written a book before. They may not even be a good writer, but that's okay, because you can still get a really good book done, even if you hate writing, when you have the right support.
And how can they get in touch with you?
I can be reached via email, Judy, Judy, at skillbites.net, skillbites.net. Or you can go to my website, skillbites.net. You can give me a call at 610-783-4519.
Great. Thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure, Dan.
Thank you for listening to the Write Your Book in a Flash podcast with Dan Janelle, the only podcast that shows you exactly how people just like you have built their businesses by writing a book. If you'd like to write your book but don't know where to start, you can find great information at writeyourbookinaflash.com. If you're ready to take your next step to write the book that can transform your business, I invite you to schedule a free, no obligation consulting call with me by going to writeyourbookinaflash.com. We'll be back next week with another insightful interview to help you become a top business leader.